Hello students, Mr. Anderson here with you today. We're going to talk about circle graphs. First thing I'd like you to do is make sure you have a piece of paper, pencil, and a calculator out so you can take some notes and do some calculations. At the top of your paper, label it circle graphs, put the date on there. A couple of things that'll help you as we go here. Make sure that you're taking good notes. Make sure that you pause the video along the way and do the calculations yourself so that you make sure you know how to do it on your calculator. Whether you're using your phone, a nice calculator, something like we have in class, or if you're just using your Chromebook or computer for the calculator. Pause the videos, do the calculations yourself. Circle graphs, I like circle graphs. They're pretty easy. And it relies a lot on what we've been doing pretty much all year. Circle graphs always represent 100% of data given. And what's nice then is since it's a percent and we know it's always out of 100, a lot of the problems we do today, we're going to put the percent over 100 equals the part over the whole. Now, as I write that down, you look at it and you should be thinking, oh boy, we have done a lot of these. And that's what I like about circle graphs, is it relies on knowledge that you already have and you're already good at. So if you write the proportion and you solve it, there's a lot of ways to solve it, you should be able to have good success today with circle graphs. All right, let's take a look at a few examples. So here it says, out of 400 people surveyed, how many chose each activity? And you're given a circle graph, and there's 4 different activities they get to choose from. They could choose from sports, camping, hiking, or biking. Now there are multiple ways that you could solve these problems, and I'm going to do them in a couple different ways. But you can always go back to percent over 100 equals the part over the whole. In this problem, since they told you that there's 400 people surveyed, that's the whole. You know how many people they talked to and asked the question to. So when I'm looking at camping and it says that 13% of people like camping, I can set that up as a proportion. 13% over 100 equals the part. That's what I'm looking for over the whole. Now it tells us the whole is 400 people. Now, this one has a nice connecting number. If you look at this, this is just going to be times 4. To go from 100 to 400 is times 4. So you can just take 13 times 4, and that will get you your answer. So 13 times 4, type that in your calculator, you get 52 people. I spelled people right there. 52 people like camping. Right? The next one's sports. 45% of people like sports. How many people is that? I'm going to do that a little different. I could set it up as 45 over 100 equals X over 400, just like I did the camping problem. Or I can think about 45% is really just 10% plus 10% plus 10% plus 5%. So, I need one more 10% in there. Let me get that in there. Plus 10% plus 5%. Because then that's 10, 20, 30, 40 plus 5 more is 45%. Well, 10% of 400, that's just 40. So it's 40 plus 40 plus 40 plus 40 plus 5. Not 5. 5% is half of 10%, so it'd be plus 20. So if I add that up, 40 plus 40 is 80, plus another 40 is 120, plus another 40 is 160, plus 20 more would be 180 people like sports. So So that's where I decompose a percent into benchmark percents. Maybe you don't like to do that one with the decomposition and you prefer to set it up as 45 over 100 equals x over 400 and just use the connecting number and multiply by 4. You would get the same answer either way. Okay? So sports, I did it down below there. That's 180 people like sports. Okay, hiking. Hiking's an easy one to do with decomposition. It's just 10% plus 1%, which is just 40 plus 4, because 10% of 400 is 40 people. 1% of 400 is 4, so it's 44 people like hiking. Probably more than 44 people like hiking right now with all the social distancing that we're doing. Right, the last one, how many people like biking? Okay, I showed you one using a proportion. I've shown you two problems with decomposition. I'm going to just use proportions to figure out the last one, just to show that I can work back and forth and use different methods. Okay, so this one would just be 31 over 100 equals x over 400. And in this case, I multiply by 4, and you get 124 people like biking. You'll notice if you add all those numbers up, 52 plus 180 plus 44 plus 124, you'll get back to your original number of 400 people. Okay? So this is where we know how many people were surveyed, and we're just finding the part. Let's try another example. Okay? Here we have a circle graph of pizza preferences. Notice that up above they give you a legend, and that just tells you what each color represents. So the blue is pepperoni, the gold is supreme, the orange is cheese, and the gray is sausage. Okay. Now, this is a little different type problem. It says, if 16 people responded supreme as their favorite, what is the total number of participants in the survey? The last example, they told us how many people were being surveyed, and I knew the whole. This problem, they tell me 16 people, that's the part. So, this problem I'm going to want to use a proportion. I know that 10%, because it's right here, 10% like supreme, 10% out of 100 equals the part over the whole. I know that the part is 16. It's right there. So, the 16 is going to go on top. I'm looking for the entire number that it's out of. How many people responded to the survey? Now, you can find a connecting number here. You could do 16 divided by 10 times 100 and work in a circle. You could do that. I noticed this, that to go from 10 to 100, that's just times 10. So to go to 16 to the whole, I need to multiply by 10. And I know that 16 times 10 is 160 people surveyed. So that's the whole. That's how many people they talked to. So 160 people were talked to, 10% like supreme, which was 16 people. So I'm going to use that number now for the next 3 examples, because now that I know the whole. So how many kids responded pepperoni? Well, pepperoni is 50%. 50% is just half of the people surveyed. So you could set it up as 50 over 100 equals how many out of 160? And you could solve that, noticing the connecting number going from the bottom to the top, you divide by 2. Or you can just take, since it's 50%, you know that's half, you can do 160 divided by 2. That's what I would do. And it would just be 80 people or kids like pepperoni. Good old pepperoni pizza. Yum. All right. So the first part of this example up here, notice we found the whole. So we found that it's out of 160. Then we use that information to figure out, well, what is 50% of the people surveyed? That was 80. We're going to use this number 160 people for the next couple problems. So next slide. Here's our same graph, pizza preferences. Notice everything's identical to the last slide that we did. So it's out of 160 people total, or kids. It says, how many kids prefer sausage or cheese? So this is a little bit different problem because we're asking, I'm okay if they like sausage or I'm okay if they like cheese. Well, since sausage is 15% and cheese is 25%, I can add those two numbers together. 15% like sausage, 25% like cheese. That means that 40% of kids either like sausage or cheese. So how many kids is that? So I can set up a proportion. 40 over 100 equals how many out of the 160 people total. Okay. Now, to do this problem, I would divide going this direction, so 160 divided by 100. Then I would take 40 times that number. So, when I type that in my calculator, 160 divided by 100, I get 1.6. That's my connecting number. So I'm going to multiply 40 times 1.6 to find my x value. How many kids like sausage or cheese? And when I type that in, I get 64 kids like sausage or cheese. All right. Last question says, how many kids did not choose sausage? Okay, there's a couple different ways you can do this problem. You could figure out how many kids actually like sausage. Okay. 15% of kids like sausage. So that'd be 15 out of 100 like it out of the 160. This is for how many like sausage. Type that in your calculator. You're going to get that same connecting number of 1.6. So you can do 16 times 1.6. I'm sorry, 15 times 1.6. And you'll find that 24 kids like sausage. Well, but that's not what the question's asking. It's saying how many do not like sausage. So, if there's 160 kids and only 24 like it, then the rest of the kids did not like it. So, 160 minus 24, 136 kids don't like sausage. Okay. So you could find out how many kids liked it and subtract to find out how many kids don't like it. The other way that you could do the problem is you could look at it, and I'll do it in a different color here. You could think about, well, 15% of kids don't like sausage, which would mean that 15% of kids like sausage, which means 85% of kids don't like sausage. Put the percent on the top, 85. That's out of 100. equals how many out of 160? You divide, you'll get that same connecting number of 1.6, and then you can multiply by 1.6 to get your answer, and you'll notice that you get the exact same answer as we did the other way. 136 kids still don't like sausage. So you have two different ways you could do that problem. You could look at the percentage of kids that don't like sausage and figure that out, like I did in the blue. Or you could figure out how many kids do like sausage and subtract to find out how many kids don't like sausage, like I did in the black. So, two different ways to do it. You pick the way that you like best and you go with it. 136 kids don't like sausage. I don't think I agree with them, but I sure do like pepperoni. What's your favorite pizza? Think about that. I know my kids have been living off of pizza since they've been at home a lot doing their schoolwork. Let's do one more example. A pie graph that talks about pie. I do like my pie. So, in this case, it says if 828 people who were surveyed chose pumpkin as their favorite pie, how many people were surveyed total? So, this is one of those problems where I know the part, this is the part that likes pumpkin, I'm looking for the whole. Okay, so pumpkin is 30%. 30% out of 100 equals what out of, I don't know how many total, but I know that 828 people like pumpkin. So I'm going to find my connecting number here. I'm going to take the 828, divide it by 30. Again, you should be pausing the video and doing the calculations yourself. 828 divided by 30, I get 27.6. Then I'm going to multiply that by 100. So times 27.6 times 100 means that there were 2,760 people surveyed. So that's my whole number. 2,760 people they talked to. 30% of that like pumpkin, which is 828 people. Okay. Now it says using the total you found before, so using the number we just found, how many people preferred cherry? Well, cherry is 23%. So 23 out of 100 equals how many people out of 2,760? So you're going to divide here to find your connecting number. I divide there. And I get 27.6. So then I'm going to multiply 23 times 27.6. 23 times 27.6. I'm going to double check my math there because I got a decimal. So which is okay, but I just want to make sure. 2,760 divided by 100 gives me a multiplier, 27.6 times 23. So in this case, I get 634.8 people. 0.8 of a person, that could get a little messy. So we're going to round that to the nearest whole number. So I would answer this question as 635 people. So 635 people like cherry pie. Okay? So be careful there. If you get a decimal, just remember people can't have part of a person. So just round it to the nearest whole number. In this case, my decimal was 0.8, so I rounded up. All right, last part of the example. How many people preferred either coconut cream or pecan? So this one, I've got two different things I'm looking at. They're both right here, coconut cream and pecan. If I add those two numbers together, that's 11% of people. Now that I know the percent goes over 100 equals how many out of the total people? 2,760. Right? Again, you're going to divide. That'll find you your multiplier, your connecting number. In this case, I get 27.6 again. So I take that number, 27.6, I multiply it by 11, and I end up with another decimal, 303. So when I multiply going this way by 27.6, I get 303.6 people. Again, I look at that decimal, I can't have part of a person. 0.6 is 5 or more, so you let it soar. So you're going to round that up to 304 people. Right? Not every number ends up being super nice. Sometimes you end up with a decimal. You just have to think about the context of your situation and make sure that you're okay with how those numbers come out. If you have any questions, remember, email or send your teacher a message. We're always more than willing to help you figure things out. I hope you have a great day.